here. So we are looking at Raleigh's retirement coach on the radio, which is awesome. Investing a lot into marketing. And this is an area where these numbers are not reflective of how many people listen in. But I want to just tune in and see if we can, again, similarities, see if we can find similarities across the landscape of 30 minutes or 40 minutes if they have little ads in between. We're going to start with what are the top uncertainties Gen Xers have when it comes to retirement? Start with the call to action. This is easy to find, and we're going to just listen in on one of the call to actions that is at the 18-minute mark.
About this a lot on this show. If you're thinking about some end of year loose ends you want to tie up from a financial side of things, folks, you're running out of time. That's why you want to give Brian and Michaela Raleigh and the team at Raleigh Wealth Solutions a call today. 919-852-1215. That is the number. Again, 919-852-1215, where you can always reach them online. It's RaleighWealthSolutions.com. It's RaleighWealthSolutions.com.
So as you can hear, it's cinching up the end of year things that are going on. That is why you book a call with them. We're also looking for, in this radio show, and this is what we've seen, we're looking for offers being made. And that is a big component of how we're able to help book people on the calendar. What are the offers? It's cinching up, so closing up your retirement planning so you don't have this weight over your shoulders. That is a big component of this call to action. And we're going to look at a few more. So I will pause this video until I find it, a couple more. I'm going to cover a few things. One, the content of this initial first podcast, or this initial first radio show of the two, the Gen Xers when it comes to retirement. Actually, it's part two. The next thing is we're going to look at the call to action. What is that? What rhetorical angle are they taking? What are they trying to accomplish by pushing this call to action? And then I'm going to leave you with a few thoughts, some things that could potentially be alternative angles and alternative ways that these calls to action can be articulated. So getting into the content, I'm at the 5-ish, I'll start at the 3-minute mark, and I'm going to just jump into it. I'll give you the high level review. It's talking about income annuities. It's a contractual obligation to receive a certain amount of money over time. And that's kind of what's articulated here. What is phenomenal is that a lot of misconceptions occur when people talk about financial products. And the fact that this company is breaking down the financial products, showcasing, hey, this is actually what it is, using layman's terms to break down a financial product, provides a almost teacher perspective. So you're automatically giving yourself the authority to talk on the subject by sharing the simplified definition. Additionally, throughout this show, there are analogies which convey ideas in a simpler way, using stories or using a relatable topic. And I think that is an additional way that these difficult financial concepts can be broken down and articulated in an understandable way to an audience who might not be as savvy. What I don't see very often, and this is probably true because there are less people who are financially savvy who these advisors are looking to get on their calendar, and that's just the lay of the land, that's the way it is. There is rarely talk about a specific application of a specific thing because A, you'll never know if it's the right fit for someone, and B, you really can't get into the specifics in the application because of the legal background that financial advisors are held to and the legal standards and the SEC and FINRA rules that they're held to. So that's an interesting caveat and something to keep in mind when you're thinking about just the content that they're covering. But getting into the call to actions, I'm going to get into this now. First, the announcer is talking, and this is, I believe, the radio show host of the radio that they tune into, is first enunciating the fact that the president and founder, which is a high accolade, high authority position, is taking clients. And that is a huge boost to someone's authority when it's president and founder of a financial company that is automatically an esteemed position by most people's standards. The authority is almost assumed at that point. What he talks about is cinching up, kind of closing up, the idea of bringing something to a close. And I want to talk about that idea as a call to action. What it creates is the sense that someone has they have a burden, they have a task, they have something they need to check off, and it hits that pain point of, I'm anxious about trying to get this thing off of my to-do list, and I can finally do it. I can cinch this. I can close it. I can end the year. I can end this task. And that is a very powerful rhetorical angle to take. And that, when you can couple it with the fact that you're talking about retirement planning, you're talking about the kind of closing things out, the end of the life, the end of your career, all of those things are important. And you can amplify your tone, and you can amplify what you're saying by having this congruent language where everything is kind of closing, kind of ending, kind of nearing the bow tie that finishes the present. All of those things are powerful. And I will count all the calls to action throughout this podcast. So there are 5 and maybe 6 if you want to call a few times when the radio host was actually asking the questions that almost seemed like, oh, how do you get an appointment with you? There are almost 6 calls to action, which I think when done correctly, and this show has been going on for a long time. I don't know the start date, but the fact that the company that is hosting this radio show, the actual radio show host is the one doing the calls to action, I think actually creates a sense of, it removes the sales-ish angle from the advisor. It removes that and creates a second or a third party that can kind of act as the intermediary, the spokesperson. And when you think about that third party spokesperson who's speaking on your behalf, the referral, so to speak, it is a very powerful way of creating authority. You have another person who's vouching for you. You have that spokesperson. Obviously, there's always something to be said when someone can speak really well about you and not you talking about all the great things you've done. It's always a friend or a peer. I think back to when my friends talk about how great I was and how I was literally the next Lionel Messi and I was the best. And arguably, I probably am the best soccer player to ever walk this earth based on their anecdotes, based on their perception. I tend to believe it. A lot of people, when they see the real thing, are a little bit less convinced. However, one of the things that I think is important is knowing that when you have a spokesperson, when you have a person to vouch for you, it creates a sense of realness, creates an authentic angle that can add a lot to what you're trying to sell or add a lot to what you're trying to accomplish. And that, at the end of the day, is to get people to call in, get people to talk to people like our appointment setters, and to get them on the calendar. So that is a breakdown of the Raleigh's Retirement Coach. If you want to learn more, if you want to tune in, learn about how radio shows, what angles are they trying to convey, or what are they trying to accomplish, tune in. We're going to try and do this we will do this every single week. We're not going to try. I am not going to try. I am going to get this out every single week. My name is Aaron Brown with 7 Figure RIA. Have a great rest of your day.